all these things that come into our lives that are meant to knock us down, to defeat us, to make us feel like, oh, the world is against us. This COVID-19, whatever it is, whatever our finances, whatever our health, whatever our families, it's meant to strengthen us in relationship to a Father who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and who loves us uniquely, each one of us, like no one else can. So there's hope in the storm. Our mess is our message.
If you would like weekly content that builds your faith and helps you walk out all that God has for your life, subscribe and be a part of Life Family.
The fact that I'm standing here at all is kind of crazy because I was an unwanted, unintended pregnancy, basically. I'm just grateful to my birth mother that she brought me into the world, and that at 6 weeks of age, it took me a while, I guess, to find parents. But, at 6 weeks of age, I was adopted by 2 school teachers from northwestern Ohio, and that was just, they brought me home and a little blanket, and I remember it like it was just yesterday, and it was just like this great thing. And they introduced me to my sister, who was born of my parents, and she took one look at me and she said, "He's not very cute. Can we please take him back and exchange him for another baby?" And that's, we got past that, I hope. I think, it's been a lot of years. But growing up as an adopted child is a little bit different than growing up as a birth child, because when you have a birth child, there's expectation, right? So, if you're in academia and you have a birth child, you expect them to be students, right? You expect them to be interested in learning. If you're in athletics, if you're in sports and you have a child, you kind of expect them to be athletic because, biologically, that's just they're predisposed to be athletic. When you have an adopted child, it's kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. And you just kind of wait for it to kind of reveal itself, right? So it's kind of like this open hand thing of raising this child instead of it being done out of like an extension of who we are as people. So growing up in this family was really fun. My mom was the center of my universe. She was a lover, a nurturer. She was just the greatest thing. She was a 4x4 and just the greatest. Like every time she laughed, and that was often, her whole face would all her features just sort of disappear. And it was just, she hugged and she loved, and not just her children and her family, but her whole entire community. And she was just this incredible person that just, I just love my mom so much. And so growing up in this family, we would be going somewhere and someone would say, "Oh, you can't deny him," right? Thinking that, I look like my mom, and I always say, "Why do people think I look like you?" And she would always say, "We always resemble the ones that love us the most." And that was her, right? We always resemble the ones that love us the most. And as church members, we always kind of resemble Jesus because he loved us the most, right? So, growing up in this family, who knows what's going to happen, right? So I always talk about it this way. Parents, that counter that's in your kitchen, the ones that your kids run under all the time, and you just know that one day they're going to grow just enough where they're going to think they're going to sail under that counter and they're going to bash their head, right? Well, that never happened to me. Going under that counter. And after a while, it's kind of like, well, we didn't know what to expect, but this is unusual. And they realized that I wasn't growing and I wasn't developing properly. It got to the point where I was showing incredible signs of stress, where I had a distended belly and I had no muscle development, kind of like now. But it was like there's this, I was showing every sign of being a starving child when I was eating like a horse, but my body just couldn't handle any of it. And I wasn't growing and I wasn't developing. And so for the next 4 years, I spent a lot of time in hospitals, from place to place to place, just trying to get to whatever's happening. We just needed to get to some sort of understanding of how do we treat this? What is it? There was so many misdiagnoses, and there was like one said cystic fibrosis, another one said this, another one said that, but there was no answer, right? So finally we ended up in the biggest hospital for children in the United States at the time, which was Boston Children's Hospital. And it was there that I had every single symptom of a disease called Shwachman-Diamond syndrome. And I was being seen by Dr. Shwachman himself. And so test after test after test after test. And finally he sat my parents down and he said, this is really confusing because he's not growing, he's obviously struggling, and he has every single symptom of this condition, but he doesn't have Shwachman-Diamond syndrome. He just doesn't have it. So we don't know what's going on, so we can only give you a little bit of advice, and that's go home and live a normal life. Stop at that point, they thought maybe it was an allergy to sugar or dairy or flour. So birthday parties were no fun at all, And so they said, go home, live a normal life. Let him eat whatever he wants to, but keep him on the supplement because, he definitely needs that. So we went home. And we just tried to get into whatever was next, but the supplement was a little tripping point. You see, you know how you go to like Walgreens now and they have like flavor of the month and it's either like cherry or bubblegum or, grape or whatever? See, back then, flavor of the year was chalk. And it wasn't just like chocolate chalk or vanilla chalk. It was chalk. It was just like... So they would have me drink this glass that was about that big. And I would have to, and it was just awful. And so it forced me to become this pathological liar. So I'd go, Mom, that last time I really choked on this. Can I drink it in the bathroom just in case? And she goes, of course, honey. That was awful. Why did you make me drink it? So, of course, after a while, you get sloppy, and I'm sitting there doing this thing and this thing. Hi, Mom. You have to drink this. I will not drink this. You have to drink this. I refuse to drink this. For all we know, this is the only thing keeping you alive. It's like, at 9 years old, I'm living forever, right? So I just told her no. And our family physician came up with this amazing compromise. So what they did was they stuck a tube up my nose, down my esophagus, and they would feed me the supplement through this nose tube. And it was awesome. Like, I never had to taste that garbage again. It was just like I'd sit there and they'd put the bottle up and it would drip, drip, drip. And as soon as somebody left the room, I'd open it up wide and be like, whoop, whoop, and then I'd be like, out, time to play. And so when I wasn't using the nose tube, I would tape it to the side of my face and kind of put it over my ear, like a little storage unit right there in my ear. And then I would just go and just play and have fun with, whoever, whatever. So it got to the point where my parents were showing some signs of stress. And so our doctor said, you need a morning off. And they said, how are we going to do that? And he said, well, I've got an idea. I wouldn't recommend this without an idea. Here's our idea. There's a brand new skating rink at Bowling Green State University where they teach children how to skate for 4 hours from 8 to noon every Saturday morning, and you'll be completely supervised. It's very safe, and you guys can just recharge your batteries. And so I went to the rink, and I walk in, and there's like 120 well kids. And I've never seen so many I was used to sick kids, but I wasn't used to being around that many well kids. And I'm looking at all this, and I'm like, whoa. And they look at me, and they're like, ew. I go, hi, and they're like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, wait, what's that coming out of your nose? And it was like, oh, you've never been fed through your nose before? Really? It was a weird one. So I go out to skate and I hang onto the wall like we always do, and I let go and hang onto the wall and let go, and pretty soon I was making it all the way around by myself. And then in a few weeks I was skating as well as the well kids, and then in a few more weeks I was skating as well as the best athletes in my grade. No. I'm telling y'all that there's something about that first taste of self-esteem that just changes everything. When you have like a strong self-esteem, like when you feel good about yourself, it changes the air in the room. It's just the most powerful thing. You give everyone permission to love you as much as you love yourself, right? And that's not being conceited or being anything else. It's just about, I love what the Lord has given me, and I'm going to celebrate it every single day. So I'm out there skating, and I wasn't always, let's just say I wasn't competitive, and I failed a lot of tests, and I was doing all right. And my mom, every time I'd finally pass one of those tests, my mom would take me around to the neighbors and say, he passed with flying colors, and someday we're going to the Olympics. And it's like, based on what? Because I'm not doing that well. So it was just this, we were into skating, and all of a sudden I started growing, and I started getting muscle development, and my mom would say, look at your thighs. And it's like, Mom, gross, don't look at my thighs. And it's like, I was starting to get healthy, and it was this miraculous thing. So more of that. We're going to have more skating, and so I lived at the rink, and I just loved it and everything about it. And again, I would do okay kind of locally, and then regionally, okay, and then sectionally, not so good, and then nationally, disaster. In fact, my first time I made it to the national championships, they put the little novice boys event, which was my event, right before the senior ladies championship. Yeah. And it was that championship where Janet Lynn, who was the most beloved and most popular woman athlete in the world, and a believer of just a devout believer and an evangelist in our world, she was competing for her last nationals. You think there was a little bit of interest in that? So there's 17,500 people in the audience when I took the ice. And I rose to the occasion. 5 times. I fell 5 times in my program. And it was like, instead of hearing, yay, like from other competitors, it was like, oh, and it's a 3-minute program. How do you have time to fall down 5 times and get up in a 3-minute program? I spent more time on my rear end than I did on my blades, and it was devastating. It was just awful, and my mom was there to hug me and to encourage me to just get back out there the next year, where I came in 9th again. And then the next year we went up to the junior level, and I kind of beat a couple guys. I guess that was okay. And then after that competition, we came back and my mom goes, family meeting. And it's like, what's a family meeting? We never had one of those before. And she goes, oh, come on, we're going to have a family meeting. And we sat down and she goes, okay, everybody, hey, I've just come back from the doctor and I've been diagnosed with a disease called cancer. And so I'm going to need a little help around the house because I'm going to be busy with getting some treatments and maybe some surgery and everything. And so I'm just going to, and then she looked at me and she goes, and you, mister? And I was like, yes, ma'am. So we're broke. We ran out of money like a while ago, but we're still kind of keeping you in skating because it's the best thing for you. It's your senior year in high school coming up, so you get 1 more year in skating, and then next year you can start going to college. Since your dad and I are both professors here, we can afford free, and then we're going to go on to the next. And I was like, okay, why is she so happy? I thought cancer was a bad thing, and she was just joyful. And so I went back to my training area in Illinois, and I got a new coach because my other one retired, and he was just cracking the whip and forced me to do all these things. And it was like, I'm going to submit because, like my last year in skating, I can just go hard to the finish line. And things just started because I went all in, things started getting a little better. So about a week before the competition, I landed my first triple jump, and it was like, well, that's good. I can check that one off the list. I finally landed a triple the week before I quit skating forever. And, oh, well. And so I go out for the competition, and my mom was there, and she was wearing a wig because she lost all her hair to chemo, and then they took her left breast and most of the inside of her left arm, and she was wearing a sling, and she had the biggest smile on her face the whole time. And I was like, are you okay? And she goes, I'm great. And it's like, is it the drugs they have you on? It's like, what's this? She goes, you skate, we'll talk when it's done. So I go out for my long program, and I was in a little better position than I'd ever been, before. And my coach, right before I went out for the warm-up, he goes, oh, one more thing. Don't warm up your triple sow cow. And I was like, why? And he goes, because we don't really want to know if it's there or not. So just do doubles. I go, okay, I can do that. So I warm up and everything. I go out for my program. My mom's in the corner of the building, and I take the ice and I go around and land my first jump, and that's great because it's unusual. And then I go around and I go and I load up for this triple sow cow, and it's like, well, last competition, let's just go. And I threw it, and I was like, normally when I do the hardest jump in my program, I landed this triple sow cow in my last competition ever, and I got so excited I forgot to mess up the rest of the program. So I won junior nationals, and it was like surreal. But the cool thing was my mom was in such a good mood because on her way there, she met a couple who was very wealthy that wanted to sponsor my skating. The only string, there was really no string attached, but the only thing that they recommended was that I moved to Denver to take from this coach who in about 3 weeks was coaching this girl, I don't know, Dorothy Hamill, have you ever heard of her? To an Olympic gold medal. And I get to take from him. And it was just unbelievable. So I moved to Denver, and I call it the trifecta. I'm sponsored, I turn 18, and I get my own apartment. Yeah, we have some parents out there. It's called the trifecta, and it ends in disaster. So I go out for the nationals, and my mom was there, of course, to support. And I went out, and I fell so hard in the first jump of the program that, you know that muscle that's like right there? Like, I hit that so hard that my leg was kind of doing this for the rest of the routine. Now, if I was skating to Elvis, that would have been, but I wasn't. And it was just awful. I ended up coming in 9th, which is my number, it seems. And that would be the last time my mother would ever see me skate in competition. I was in her hospital room a couple months after that competition, and till about 3 a.m, and she was unconscious. And then I went back home, and I slept on the couch because we had so many people there to support us. And my brother-in-law came and woke me up, and he said, "Your mother is gone." And all I could think to say was, "I know." So I went for a walk in our backyard, and how do I do this without her? How do I do this without the person in this world I love the most? How do I do it? And I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and it came to me that I don't have to leave her behind. I can carry her with me every step of the way. And so I decided that I was going to change the way I did things, and I was going to honor her in everything that I did. So if I was a little running late, no, on time, honor her. If I didn't feel like doing a long program run through, you're doing the run through, honor her. And so I just went all in just to try to become the person that she always thought I could be, or in her eyes was already. And from that 9th place finish, before I lost her to the next nationals, I went from 9th to 3rd in the country and 11th in the world. One decision to honor my mom. And then 2 years later, I'm on the Olympic team going to Lake Placid. Like, she always said we were going to the Olympics, and I'd say, based on what? Because it's not really going that well. And so I'm at the Olympics, and I get pulled out of the Olympic Village movie that we were watching, and they said, "Oh, you've done it this time." I go, "What?" And they go, "Well, here's what you've done. You've been elected to carry the flag in the opening ceremonies." And it's like, why? I'm the 3rd guy on a 3-man team. I'm basically a tourist here. So why? And they go, because they wanted this to be more about the journey than the destination. And it's like, wow. So I go in for the parade uniform fitting. Here's my world. "Hey, hi, Scott, you're the flag bearer?" And I go, "Yeah," and I'm so excited. And they go, "What size shoe do you take?" And I go, "A 6. And they go, "Is 7.5 okay?" Sure. My pants can crotch. roll those up, roll those up. My jacket was like, it's kind of like this. It's like, roll that up, broad shoulders, nice. And everything was just like I was wearing like somebody else's clothes. And my mittens came down to here, and like I got the flag, and I'm kind of doing this. And then the cowboy hat that I was wearing was like, it was too big, so I was having to keep it out of my eyes. So I'm walking into the Olympic ceremonies, like the whole team's behind me, and I just pray that I didn't fall down because and the whole thing was going to crash. And they must have thought I was elected to carry the flag because I have a condition, right? So it was an amazing Olympics, and then for the next 4 years I went undefeated, which is unbelievable. Standing on the podium getting an Olympic gold medal, it was like, what in the world? I mean, to this day, it's like, what in the world? How did that happen? I'm the most unlikely guy ever to be standing here. What in the world is happening? And it was just unbelievable. And I'm thinking about my mom, and I'm thinking about, I wish you were here, and she is. And I was thinking about, who am I now? And the journey's over, and then where do I? And it's like, it's just all these conflicting emotions. And then the anthem starts, and it's like, I'm just crying like a baby because it's a shared moment. It's not my achievement, it's our achievement. I got to represent everyone from the United States of America in that moment, and it was the most powerful, proudest moment of my life. Because we never truly do anything on our own, right? There's always a mountain of people supporting and plowing in. That's why the stories from this Olympics are so spectacular, to see the sacrifices that were made, to see the dedication that went into it, and to see these incredibly talented people rise up and just be on that stage to inspire us all. I mean, to inspire us all, and it's just miraculous. So I had to turn pro because I was broke, living in my best friend's parents' basement, and I was building this professional career. And 13 years into my professional career, I found that I couldn't stand up straight anymore. It was just unbelievable. And we were 50 cities into a 60-city tour, and it was about 20 years, almost to the month, that I lost my mom. And the doctor's telling me, you have cancer. And the fear was unbelievable. And I don't know if it was 5 seconds or 5 minutes, I don't know, nanosecond, that fear flipped to a sense of power and courage and mission. Like, I'm going to beat this thing. I'm going to give it everything I've got. And it was there my mom came back to me. Oh, she would say things like, oh, this chemotherapy, I finally found a way to lose all this weight. Oh, this chemotherapy, I've wanted to quit smoking all these years, now I have no desire. Oh, this chemo is magnificent. Oh, my hair was always such a problem. These wigs are so beautiful and so much easier. And it was like, I want to be her. And so they got it right away. My nurse treated me like an 8-year-old. I had Snoopy stickers all over my chemo bags, and Mylar on the next one. And then I had SpongeBob and Scooby-Doo Band-Aids, and I had banana popsicles in a freezer in there. It's just like I was a pediatric patient at 38 years old. And then I had this 38 staple surgery, which I call filet au scat, and then back to life. And ironically, 3 years to the day I was diagnosed with cancer, I met a young lady backstage at a Stars on Ice show who was a guest of a friend of mine. And I had no idea that she would one day become my wife. And after we had our first child, which happened 9 months and 2 days after we got married. So I don't say that out of some sort of masculine pride. I say it out of, I'm a testicular cancer survivor, okay? That was a miracle. I just take it for what it is. Or just back to life, we have this son, and I go to Cleveland for a checkup because I'm feeling symptomatic, and it was there that I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I'm lucky in cards too, right? So I have to tell my wife, and I'll go back to when we were dating. I knew that she was the one, and she said, I need to ask you a question, a really important question. And I said, you can ask me anything. And she goes, where are you in your relationship to Jesus Christ? So I said what any smart guy would say. Where do you want me to be? No, I had beliefs. They were so immature, and and I didn't know. I believed in God. I believed in Jesus. I believed. I just didn't know how to do it. So I needed somebody to pour into me a little bit. And she goes, let me introduce you to my pastor. So he introduced me. He ushered me into this incredible mindset where I was able to really, truly get into a relationship with Jesus. And he married us and baptized me. And it was just this groundswell of just faith. And it was then, in Cleveland, when I was diagnosed with this brain tumor, that I told her. She goes, what's going on? I said, I have a brain tumor. She put her head down, not 1 second hesitation. She just started to pray. And it was there that I knew that all things were coming together. All questions were being answered. And we prayed and prayed and prayed. They had to go in. They said they found a safe corridor. Okay. And they said, well, if anything goes wrong, it could be loss of motor function, loss of memory, loss of speech, and I'm like, okay, this sounds like a lot of fun. And so I wake up at 10:20 in the morning after the surgery, and it's like I know who I am, where I am, why I'm there, and I went, test. Oh, I can still speak. Okay, I guess it went well. So they all come in, they're all smiling. We know what it is. We're going to come up with a treatment plan. Here's some information on the brain tumor, and we're optimistic. And I was like, oh, that's so great. And so my wife's reading the pamphlet they gave her, and it says, oh, wow, look at this. It says, craniopharyngiomas are usually detected early in a child's life due to a lack of growth and development. See, if you live long enough, all questions will be answered. I was born with this brain tumor. It made everything possible. How am I angry at this thing? I call it my noggin nugget. It's come back a couple times. It's a little relentless thing, but it's like, it made everything possible. This was a blessing. This wasn't a curse. I always look at these things, it's like, oh, I just get knocked down again. It's like, no, turn it, look at it. You think of, it's like, I was ravaged, right? It's like a glass shattering. That glass will never do what it was designed to do, but if you hold up the pieces, rainbows. Every single one of my scars that I have all over my body, it's tissue that'll never be damaged the same way again. Stronger than it was before. All these things that come into our lives that are meant to knock us down, to defeat us, to make us feel like, oh, the world is against us. This COVID-19, whatever it is, whatever our finances, whatever our health, whatever our families, it's meant to strengthen us in relationship to a Father who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and who loves us uniquely, each one of us, like no one else can. So there's hope in the storm. Our mess is our message. And when I look back at all these things, that through this treatment of this brain tumor, that I was able to have a second child, born redheaded. We figure these things out, right? It's faith. It's understanding that we're made of much more powerful stuff than we're giving ourselves credit for. We believe, we lean in, we allow all of these things to do their work to make us stronger, to make us faster, to take us higher than we ever thought possible. It's an amazing thing, this life, and what it offers us. It offers us learning. It offers us growth. It's an e-ticket ride at Disneyland where you have the highs, you have the lows, but it's all meant to bring us to our destination. And our destination is always meant to be with Him. You know, I was talking to someone earlier. She's sitting right back there taking notes. And she's just it's been a difficult ride with her cancer. The last brain tumor I haven't treated it yet. It's right here. Can you see it? I don't give it any credit either. But they were giving me the diagnosis and they were giving me treatment options. And all I heard in the back of my head was, get strong. Get strong. And I didn't know what that meant. Brain tumor's back again. Get strong. And so they go, well, do you want to do surgery or the medical option? And I said, I'm going to go get strong. Stand by. And I didn't know if it was physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual. I didn't know, so I chose all of the above. And I got strong. And I go back for the scan, and they go, oh, it's not growing. I go back for the next scan, it shrunk 50%. I go back for the next scan, it shrunk again. I go back to the next scan, it grew. I go back to the next scan. It's doing this. It's doing this. Just like the periods of our lives, we have highs, we have lows. We have growth, we have, it's all there. So it's all about not what life throws at us, but how we respond to it. And reading in Romans, it said, love the Lord with all your strength, with all your mind, with all your heart, and with all your soul. Get strong. That's where I learned that. And so while I stand before you, having fallen on the ice over 41,600 times, I just want you to think about one thing. Get up. We fall, we fail, we struggle. Get up. It's not in that falling that it defines us. It's how we get up. And it's how we learn.
Hey, thank you for being a part of service today. We hope that God's word met you right where you are. We hope you took something that's going to help you move forward in God's best for your life. We want to hear from you. There's a link right below this video you can click on. Send us a note. Let us know what's going on in your world, where you're watching from, maybe even how we can be praying for you. We love believing God with you for God's best in your life. You can do that by clicking that link, sending us a short note. Hey, maybe also you've made a decision to follow Jesus recently. That excites us. We celebrate with you. We want to hear from you. We want to know what God is doing in your life. You can text the word follow to 22999. We'll respond back with a link that you can click on. Go to our website. We have some great next steps for you, how to move forward in that decision that you've made to follow Jesus. Whether it's water baptism, whether it's getting in a life group, or maybe even planning in God's house right here with us in Life Track. We know whatever that next step is, God has great plans for your life, and we want to be a part of seeing all of God's best fulfilled in your heart and in your life. We hope you're doing awesome. We can't wait to see you next time.
Hi, Randy Phillips here with the great Scott Hamilton. Was that unbelievable what you just heard? I'd known the man for a little while, sung with him, been on cruises with him, but I had never heard all of that. And Scott, thank you.
Oh man, it's just, it's when I heard like recently Robin Roberts, we were doing this little podcast thing, and she said, "Make your mess your message." And you know what?
I love that.
We're all in this together, and I've never met anyone that wasn't going through a storm in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And right now, we're under assault. So if there's anything I can do to, show God's love in the storm, and that's kind of what that is there's a lot of things we don't understand right now that will reveal itself later on.
Yep.
And we just got to remain faithful, and we just got to stay stay as strong as you possibly can.
Thank you. Send this message that you just heard to as many of your friends as you can, because it is life-changing. You fell 46,000 times?
41,000.
41,000.
A minimum.
You fell down, but you...
No, it says you get up,
You get up.
and that's it. I mean, we're all getting knocked down, we're all getting pushed down, we're all getting shoved down, we're all getting, we trip, we fall, all those things that are as human, and we just gotta figure out a way to get up.
And I pray that whatever you're going through, if you get knocked down, get up.
If you don't have a home church, we want to invite you to be part of Life Family. Remember, you belong here. We're so excited that you've joined us today. Join us again next Sunday or anytime throughout the week. You can subscribe to our channel and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss a service. We're so excited you joined us today.